Hello there, guys. Welcome back to my channel, to my live reaction, to our live reaction to Qarabag 2, Chelsea 2 in the UEFA Champions League, in the league phase of the UEFA Champions League. And unfortunately, that now probably means top 8 and direct qualification to the round of 16 is kind of out of our hands. Well, it certainly makes certain very difficult games a must-win game. Not sure what just happened to Bertram. I'm sure he will be back. But yeah, I'm not very happy. I am not very happy. I can tell you that much, guys. It's pretty damn frustrating. Where is this gone? Oh, sorry. Give that a second. But yeah, I'm really frustrated. Cardio and I'm really frustrated that we took the lead. Like, we didn't play well, but we took the lead. And then we kind of just Jorrel Hato decided to just fuck shit up. Really, just decided to nah, mate. I don't want to win. I don't want to just have an easy game, which it looked like it could be after obviously we took the lead fairly early on. And here we are. Bertram, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it very much. Obviously, we would both rather be happier than we are right now. But if it's your connection, but it's lagged for a good minute there, well, I hope it was your connection, not mine. Otherwise, we are screwed. But not great, is it? And top 8 becoming a pretty distant hope now. Could have gone better tonight, couldn't it? You are muted. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. Okay. I'm confused. Maybe Bertram's situation isn't working. Maybe he just can't hear me. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if the connection is all right for you guys. That would be nice to know. Everything on my end is messing up. Bertram just texted me. So let's just ignore that. That's fine. Bertram will see whether he can fix things or not. And we will go from there. But yeah, unfortunately, Chelsea just ruined it. And I want to hear what you guys have to say. Now, I'll go back to what a couple of you guys said in the chat. Kushal started with big up, Laurenz, big up yourself. The draw feels like a loss. These other games, you cannot afford to drop points. Yeah, exactly. Does the Lavia injury seem bad? Lavia, of course, getting injured tonight. I mean, does it get any worse than that? Not only did we not win, we also, got another injury to Mr. Lavia himself. We deserve to get relegated. I'm not sure that doesn't work in the Champions League, but there you go. Yet again, Maresca showing he's a championship manager. All right. when we beat Liverpool and Tottenham, he's fantastic. And then we lose a game and he's the worst manager again in the world. Kushal does say, I agree, Hato was awful today. Tosin doesn't give that confidence as well. Bertram said he's trying to fix his Wi-Fi or his internet. So let's see. Why did Achampong not start? I mean, it is a good question. We'll take a look at the lineup in a minute and see what we think about it. Ricky says, really can't win without Palmer. Yeah. I mean, bloody hope that he's going to be back soon. Annoyed about this game. Man, Maresca should have done better, either treat it serious or not. I do kind of hear where you're coming from with that. And I will get into that as well, Maza, in terms of I just didn't understand really the mix of what we rotated and what we decided to try to go with the best team type thing. So yeah, I felt end to end the whole game. Something was off in midfield. Well, it wasn't even the midfield. I would say they just played long balls over the midfield. So the ball wasn't really going through midfield much, I thought anyway. Kusha also said people blame Maresca for what? That was a strong enough lineup to beat Qarabag. It sure should have been. But, I mean, they beat Benfica. They beat Copenhagen. They got a goal against what's their name? Athletic Bilbao as well. And we got Lewis's Raid joining. Everybody doesn't join from Lewis's stream. Big up yourself. Appreciate you very much. Smash the like. Like Lewis said, appreciate you, my bro. We need to have a chat at some point and actually stream together at some point one more time. But yeah, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. That'd be massively appreciated. But yeah, sorry, but this 1.7 billion wasted. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, it sure as hell fucking feel like that. Bertram can't be bothered about this shite. To be fair, I get it. Caicedo did nothing this whole game. Can't lace Reece boots. Honestly, I thought Reece was also pretty poor. The stupid SDS said internal solutions, shaking my head. Yeah, this is what you get. I mean, honestly, we talk about Hato. He had a massive stinker today. But Tosin is a real problem. It's a real problem. Andre says that was thought, mate. We should have got that one. We definitely needed that. We really did need the dub. This manager begged for a centre back. Board said nope. Internal solutions. It's not the manager's fault. It's the board. Absolutely. Chelsea fans. Oh no. We were so trash against this small team. What are we gonna do against the next match against the big team? Well, win probably. Ricky says, just shows how immature this team is. Can't be bothered to perform against underrated teams. Break the weight structure. Sack with Stanley and Stewart. And Master says, I need centre backs out in January. Bertram has joined one more time. So let's see, Bertram, if we can now hear you or not. That would be nice to know. Can we hear you?
I think you can. I think it was connection issues on my problem. I think Jorrel Hato might be my internet provider. So that went about as well as his defending did today.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope it stays better from here on out. Obviously, Hato didn't keep it to one mistake. He unfortunately had to make two, so that was bloody brilliant. But yeah, Bertram, obviously, I gave my initial thoughts already. Not great, is it? Like, yeah, we took the leads, the lineup. A lot of people in the chat are kind of unhappy with the mix of what we rotated and what we didn't rotate. But at the end of the day, like, we got the equalizer 10 minutes into the second half. We had so much time to still win that game, and just, we can talk about Hato, we can talk about, the manager, we can talk about everything, but we had over half an hour in the second half with the best available that we had on the pitch and weren't doing anything, really. I mean, not like nothing. Like, we had a couple of moments, but it didn't feel like we were, we should have scored 5. It didn't feel like that to me anyway. So it's just extremely frustrating to me. I don't know about you, Bertram.
I think so as well. I think it's really tough to criticize the team that's being put out by Maresca, because even though it is a tough away game, and I think it is important for us to remember that this is a tough away game. I think it's the furthest one you pretty much can have in Europe, or at least in the Champions League this season. Qarabag are a very good team this year as well. With they're on level on points with us now as well. That being said, I think this team on paper should have been strong enough. Doesn't help the fact that Romeo Lavia has to go off quickly. I think with this team we're seeing here, we might have missed a box 9. That's my first initial thought when I saw the lineup. I think Gittins made sense, but he was really, really poor today. Otherwise than that, I think you can't really be mad at the team. Our team is, almost crying out for a little bit of rotation. And I think, resting Moises and Enzo as well made sense for about 3 minutes until Moises Caicedo had to come on. But, initial thoughts on the team, I think it should be good enough to beat Qarabag. Unfortunately, as first halves go, we were really, really poor in the second half of that first half. I think we started brightly, Estevao with a great goal, but we really, really fell off it.
We really did. And I want to highlight this comment here by Adam, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well, because he says Chelsea's problem is against low blocks. This is why they're being consistent in the league. Play against teams that open up, such as Liverpool versus Ajax, is where they do all right. But would you say that Qarabag today were such an extreme low block? Because I would argue they really weren't. Like, towards the end of the game, the longer it went on, yeah, of course. But for the majority of this game, I don't even think Qarabag were hitting us in a low block. And my God, this pitch of theirs feels like the biggest pitch I've ever seen us play on, obviously, since that Europa League final in this very stadium. Obviously, Bertram, I know you're a goalkeeper, but you play football. Was it just me that felt this, and by this, not by any means is this meant to be an excuse, it's just an observation. But I felt like the grass on this pitch was ridiculously high. So many times I thought, this ball is going out for a throw-in or for a goal kick or for whatever. And every single time it stopped rolling. I don't know if they just didn't sprinkle the grass. That could be as well. But it felt like high to me. I don't know. But this is obviously not the point. But what I was thinking, did you think they were playing in a particular low block? Because I don't know, man. I didn't really get that vibe, from being honest.
Let me just double check quickly if I'm on Arsenal Fan TV with the excuse real quick.
Hey, I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying it was weird.
I didn't notice the grass, to be honest. Funny thing is, this isn't actually the stadium we won the Europa League in. There's a different one. This is the smaller one. I had to double check it myself. I think the thing you're saying with the pitch, I think the camera angle being that low kind of gave that intuition with it.
Yeah,
I think that it's a normal size, but I really wasn't a fan of the camera angle. I thought it made everything look a bit bigger, to be honest.
It felt like watching amateur football, to be honest, from that camera angle.
Exactly.
Not like a serious Champions League game. I don't know. The camera angle just made it seem amateur to me. I don't know.
Exactly. I think I agree it wasn't a low block. I think pretty much the way it summed it up is you remember last season when we had to play Nottingham Forest at home? Those last 10 minutes where we first had the Rob Sanchez save, and then the Mudryk run, and then Kunku missed header. It felt like the whole game was just that. It was just us trying to build up an attack, Qarabag just sprinting on the counter with no midfield. us winning it back and going on another counter where it went after like a goal kick or something. That's like how the whole second half felt from my point of view. So I would say they weren't in a low block as well. I think they were very, there's a lot of passion in it from them, throwing into challenges and stuff like that. But I don't think we're playing in a low block. And I think our challenges were more in line with, I think Liam Delap had a particularly poor game when he came on. I think we missed his presence. And I think as well we were a bit, I wouldn't say unlucky, but I think we had a couple of chances that could have gone in. I thought the one and Ate one as well. I thought that went in. I was just about to go absolutely crazy with that one. And Garnacho's chance is good as well. But no, I wouldn't say they were in a particularly low block.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, to get back to the lineup, honestly, what surprised me most was Reece James starting. Out of everything, that is what surprised me most. I did not see that coming. I'm still not really sure why we decided with that, if I'm being totally honest, but here we are. Why played 90 minutes as well was even more crazy to me. Obviously, Lavia forced us into one substitution early, but even still. And then the next biggest surprise was probably Hato starting at centre-back. I found that an interesting choice. Why not just Achampong? Like, he plays 2 games in a row, plays Benfica, and then plays on the weekend. And then he doesn't. Oh no, not Benfica. Sorry, Wolves. And then doesn't play on the weekend. But before the weekend before that, he did play. And now he doesn't play in the Prem, and now he doesn't play in midweek again either. So I don't really know what's happening or what the plan is. That to me doesn't really make sense. And, we just got proof today why Jorrel Hato isn't usually playing centre-back and why he basically never played centre-back at Ajax. But I know you said you couldn't really criticise the team, but did those 2 things in particular not surprise you at least? Whether there's something to criticise is maybe a different conversation. But like I say, they certainly surprised me. And George up front as well is a bit like, so you gave us Gil for 1 game, and we're like, no, he's shit, he's terrible. Let's not, because Tyreek George was literally, it was like playing with 10 men. Honestly, the way it was, like, not only did he not touch the ball, but he just didn't get involved other than twice, and it was like, I don't know, really frustrating. So maybe George was the next biggest surprise for me. But was there nothing surprising for you about the lineup?
I think Jorgensen not starting was welcomed, to be honest. I think he usually starts these games, but the tougher games, of course, it's Sanchez. I'm quite frustrated with our center back situation because I think that's one of the positions where you just wanted lockdown. And the fact, you and me, we watch pretty much every Chelsea game. We would not be able to, solidly predict who starts against Wolves out of the 4 or 5 center backs we have, which I think is a problem. I think the thing is, I just can't. Sometimes I don't understand Maresca. I do, to an extent, understand the Estevao stuff, not overplaying him. But a Josh Achampong, for example, whenever I watched him play, I always think he plays well. I certainly think he plays better than Hato a lot of the time, especially if we're talking, about a center back position. I don't understand why he doesn't play tonight, if I'm completely honest. Yeah. But it's always easier, hindsight is 2020. But stuff like that surprised me. I think other than that, it's pretty much as I expected. I think George as well, as you pointed out. There must be something with Gio behind the scenes. Gio is known to be a bit of a poor trainer, which, surprised me when I heard it as well. But I think the lack of a 9 today really, really, hurt us, especially because none of the 2 we put on were any good. I think Gio might have been the best one for tonight, and he was on the bench the whole game. It makes very little sense, in my opinion.
Yep. I mean, the thumbnail I had on this stream before I, updated it to the actual score and our reaction to the game was like, can Liam Delap redeem himself? Well, he's certainly fucking good at it. So that's fucking brilliant.
Which is fair enough. If I could quickly
talk about the rest of the first half, bro. Injured again, man. What do we do? What do we do now? Like, it's almost ironic that literally in yesterday's press conference, Enzo Maresca was actually speaking quite at length about Romeo Lavia and talking about how Romeo Lavia is fitness-wise in the similar situation Reece was a year ago. He obviously didn't start on the weekend because we don't play him on weekends. We only play him once every week. And this is what I want to kind of reply to this message here. Andrew saying, how are you going to build chemistry with 7 changes from the last game? To be honest, we make 7 to 10 changes between every game, but you got to think of it like the Poch season or like the Conte title winning season. Like one team plays the weekend and the other team plays the midweek. Now, this isn't completely like that. Cucurella, Caicedo, Enzo, and today a few others as well. They sometimes obviously mix, but in the grand scheme of things, that's essentially it. So like they're building chemistry from weekend to weekend or from midweek to midweek. So I feel like the chemistry shouldn't really be the issue, even though I know where you're coming from, but because it's once in midweek and once on the weekend, basically the same team. Yeah, I don't even think it's quite that, if I'm being honest. Ricky says Lavia should be sold. Bro, he's made of glass. Thoughts, Bertram? It's tough, isn't it? Because when you think about it, the way Maresca said that Lavia is about the same position as Reece was a year ago, if you remember, towards the end of the year 2024, that's when Reece had his last injury. Just until before Christmas, he was slightly injured. It wasn't long, but he had a small injury just before or just around Christmas, essentially. So it's even when you get the players to be more fit, they still sometimes have these fallback injuries while they're becoming more fit as a whole. And what I will say is it wasn't the hamstring. Usually it's the hamstring for Lavia. This time I'm pretty sure it was the quad. Now, whether that's better or not, it's a whole different conversation. But it's tough. I just feel so bad for him. Like, honestly, I get your reaction, Ricky, and I get, like, Mazza as well, don't rely on Lavia no more, etc. But I just feel mostly bad for him more than anything else. Like, he's 20, 21 years old, and it feels like he's already spent 3 full seasons just permanently injured. And think about how good he is as it is when he does get to play. Think about how good he actually would be. Like, it's just gut-wrenching, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts on Lavia's injury, man?
I think, as you say, he's 21. So if you're moving like this with injuries when you're 30, 31, maybe you're like 20s, I can see it, but he's still 21. And, we don't know the extent of the injury tonight. That being said, it is very worrying, the fact that he keeps pulling up with these injuries. Something about it is, if you're injured with, if you have constant problems with your hamstring or with, different other components of your leg, it does change the way you move. So sometimes you put a bit more stress on different parts of your leg, and that might, lead to stress on the quad, for example. So I think it's important to see as well the extent of the injury he has now. If it's true what we saw with the comment before, that we won't see him until February, I think that's damning. But for now, let's see the extent of the injury. I think it is worrying. Of course it is. He hasn't played a full 90 since he came. But he is still 21. He's young. I think he's the person in the world who most wants to get back, and I still think he will do that. I think the way Maresca handles these injuries has been very impressive. Rich James as an example. But as for today, I think it is very disappointing. And as you said, mostly for Lavia himself.
Yeah. And obviously what you can see on screen is that Maresca said Lavia is not able to be fit for a long, long time. We will see. I think it's his squad, like we said. I actually think this is a very good point, or a very important point by Ross here, saying it's concerning that he got hurt so early in the game. Should have been warmed in and definitely hadn't overexerted his squad by that time. And that's true. Like, obviously, awkward movements happen and sometimes muscle tears just happen. But like Bertram just said, this is the type of thing you're expecting at, like you say, like 33, whatever, upwards. Not at 21, but at the same time, you sometimes do see players that are exactly like this, a little bit like Reece James. And then at some point, all of a sudden, it clicks, and then their body can handle it. And it's almost like the body is like kind of outdeveloped itself and then not really caught up with the rest of the shit that the body needs to be doing on a day-to-day basis. And that's what it feels like. But like I say, it's gut-wrenching. I just remember exactly the same conversation that, as a lot of the chat is saying now, like he needs to go. Well, actually, AA is saying keep Lavia, definitely. But, Andre says definitely sell Lavia ASAP. Too many injuries. He might have to get surgery, but a hamstring surgery doesn't fix a quad issue. You know what I mean? So, like, in this case, surgery doesn't really solve the situation. But you can also see it below. A quote from Maresca saying the intention was to rest Caicedo, Enzo, and Gusto and more. They cannot play every 3 days. The Club World Cup affected them a lot. We did try to rotate. I mean, yeah, we did. And that was kind of the weird part. And that's, to go back to the lineup, that's what I didn't understand, partly, if I'm being totally honest. Because, you take Lavia out, I'll take him now. And the player that came on a couple of minutes into the game was Caicedo. Now, sure, that wasn't the plan, but I don't know. So you want to rotate players, but you start Cucurella. Should you just start Hato at left back and start Acheampong? Right? Like that would make
I
more
think
sense.
at that point you don't want to play if you remove Cucurella from this lineup, with no Caicedo as well. You
Yeah.
have very few leaders. You have Reece James. You maybe have Tosin or Sanchez. But I think if you take too much of the spine out, that is an issue as well.
I hear that. I'm just talking about how he's saying, like, in terms of we need to rotate. And then I'm also like, we know João Pedro is playing through injuries. And you're playing Tyreek George up front anyway. Like, why not play Guiu and then play Tyreek George as a 10? Or play Estevao as a 10? I don't know, man. What frustrated me so far at the moment is we're trying to rotate and it's costing us results. But despite giving away points, whatever competition it may be, partly due to rotation sometimes, we're not really rotating enough to actually get any significant benefit out of it. So we're not really making our players fresher. And we're also dropping points. So it's like, it's kind of a worst of both worlds right now. That's what it feels like to me anyway. But Bertram, overall about the first half, obviously Estevao scored, set up by Andre Santos in the build-up by João Pedro with the 3 Brazilians. Funny how the 3 Brazilians turned into there being 3 Argentinians on the pitch second half. But yeah, nice goal. The touch on his left foot, the immediate finish with the second touch is fantastic. Should the keeper do a little better? Yes, maybe, but that's what you get from such a quick finish. A great goal. But we didn't really do much in the first half in the grand scheme of things, did we? Other than the goal.
No, I still think we looked comfortable up until the goal. Really nicely worked from the 3 Brazilians, as you said before, with I think both Andre Santos and João Pedro getting touches before going to Estevao. He's just special. He's very, very special. I think just the way the attacks almost, magnetically went toward him, and the ability to dribble past the guy and smash it or shoot it near post is very, very effective and very impressive as well. Other than that, I think we kind of fell off maybe 5-10 minutes after the goal. I think we kind of gave initiative to Qarabag. The mistakes began to come through. I think Hato had a nearly penalty he could have given away, and then it led to the back pass or duel in which he lost it and they hit the post from when they subsequently scored. Him handling the ball as well came from the momentum shift. So I think it was quite an even first half, maybe with us being a little bit more dominant up until the goal and then just completely ceding initiative after that, which I think is kind of weak because this is that first half is one we've seen before, us playing well and then, even doing well in scoring, but kind of giving initiative and then completely, because we're such a young team, we're not able to keep composed, and we've conceded an equalizer. Let's at least keep it to halftime. No, we concede another goal almost immediately after. So I think it was kind of a naive reaction to an otherwise quite even half.
Yeah, it was a quite even half. I mean, when you look at the stats, at the fact that Qarabag had 1.24 xG and we had 0.48. Now, obviously, part of that 1.24 xG is their penalty, which will be a large chunk. 0.79 to be exact. So there isn't much else outside of that. But still, we had our goal was the only shot on target. We had 6 shots in total, but the only shots on target. Strange. Very, very strange, if you ask me. I'm not really sure why we aren't better. Like, why are we not better in these type of situations? Like, we had the lineup up there. You can see the lineup here again. And you're like, this is a good team. This is a good team. And we got, like, it wasn't even a case of what we usually face in the Premier League where there's just no space. Like, you talked about it earlier with Gittins being quite poor. The amount of times Gittins was able to take on a man and try to get in positions is kind of wild. I'm not sure how he only has 1 out of 3 dribbles. It felt like he tried every single fucking time to do something, but then just ran into people or passed backwards in the end.
He was frustrating
as well.
as well.
To be fair, their left back their left back had to come off. He kind of had, other than the goal, had a bit of a number on Estevao. You're so fucking fast and strong. It was unbelievable. But sorry, you were going to say something. Go on.
I just wanted to say I think Giddens was very frustrating today in a way. I think it was one of his poor performances because he was very bright in that first half, but it seems like the difference when he played and when Garnacho played is when he tries to dribble, he almost as the goal we saw against Wolves, he always wants to cut it back. And that can be very good for certain situations. And if we have, an informed in Delap, for example, or a Mark Guillou as well, just in the box. But I feel like we kind of needed him to shoot more today. I think there were a lot of times where instead of shooting, he went toward the byline and had to cut it back to no one. I think when Garnacho came on, he looked immediately more dangerous. His goal came from, exactly one of those situations. So I think today it wasn't really Giddens' day. His game wasn't really suited for what we had lined up.
No, it really wasn't. It really was. Now, this is a crazy stat that Ashraf has just sent. Shocking stat from UEFA's report. The ball was in play for just 46 minutes, 11 seconds across the 98 minutes of football. Now, that is crazy because the average is around an hour, anywhere between an hour and 65 minutes usually. Some leagues are a bit more, some leagues are a bit less. But 46 minutes is wild. And honestly, you can't even just blame Qarabag for this. Half the reason for this was a certain someone, and I highlight this so much, because the certain someone being the referee was Austrian. Obviously, me being Austrian, this was the first time in 11 years that an Austrian refereed the Champions League game. And I think he was half the reason for this. He did proper Austrian refereeing. Every tiniest touch of anything was immediately given as a foul. Immediately, except the one time a player of ours got touched in their box. Then, of course, it wasn't a foul. But the amount of honestly, now it doesn't excuse anything, but just made for an extremely frustrating and dull watch. We'll get to it, basics. Basic Among Us, maybe. Basic Among Us. There you go. That makes more sense. That makes a lot more sense. But we will get to that. We'll get to the lab. But looking at the second half, we then did obviously make some changes. I will bring them up on the screen in a minute as well, what changes we did make. More XG in the second half than they did. Obviously, they didn't score, and we did through that Garnacho goal. You just hinted at it. And Garnacho was an interesting one because Garnacho definitely started off better. But then he scored, and honestly, after that, he had that one attempted bicycle kick. But otherwise, he was also dog awful. I can't even lie. Like that left foot effort that he put out for a throw in. But you can't even say he got close to the corner flag. He missed even that by 20 yards. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, at least 10 shots compared to 6 in the first half, 3 on target compared to 1 in the first half, but still 0 big chances because it was a great finish from Garnacho, to be fair. And after that, what chance did we have in the second half when you think about it, Bertram? There was the couple of Enzo ones, one that got kind of deflected somehow by Liam Delap, one that got set up by Liam Delap, and the keeper did all right to save, but Enzo probably didn't get enough power on it. Estevao tried to shoot a couple of times, but they usually got blocked. And then obviously that Garnacho scissor kick. Otherwise, I can't really remember many chances, and I was really why I was partly trying to look for this excuse with the high grass, because if we're not giving us that excuse, and not for losing, but for certain individual performances, Reece James, was he annoyed that he had to start today? Because he just seemed so lackluster and so not bothered. The amount of times he underhit a pass was crazy. And that's why, again, my thinking is, what is the grass just crazy? And that's why every ball's super slow. Maybe that would explain his terrible passing. But the crossing was useless. The passing was useless. He was making mistakes defensively. Obviously, Tosin and Hato were too, but I'm not expecting better from them. I am expecting better from Reece James. Do you know what I mean? What did you make of that? As I'm not sure if anybody mentioned Reece James, but I just thought of it. As I bring the changes that we made for the second half on screen, as I do that, did you have that feeling about Reece James at all? Maybe it was just me. Oh,
I thought
maybe it just wasn't you.
I think
because
I'm all for criticizing Tosin whenever he has a bad game. I thought today he was quite good, to be honest. I think he handled the long balls very well. Yeah, I think Tosin was quite good. I don't think he was the problem, at least. From what I was defensively, I didn't really see him in the build-up play, if I'm completely honest. I at least think
that is what makes him the problem.
All right. That might have been. I think he may have lost his marker for the massive chance they had at the end, but I can't really criticize Tosin. I think Reece James. The thing with Reece James is when you watch him play, he just kind of looks like that. That's half the reason he's good. That's half the reason sometimes he looks very lackluster. I think today it's not his best game. It's not a vintage Reece James performance, but again, I find it difficult to criticize him. I think he played maybe with the good old player ratings live streams, I think a 5.5, 6 would probably be good for him. The thing with Reece James today is and with the chances, as you touched upon before in general, is I think a lot of the chances we had were kind of like we have maybe Enzo standing somewhere, ready to put a cutback in, or Estevao, and them maybe putting. There were a couple of decent crosses there, but just no one getting on the end of them. I think there were other chances with the Garnacho one, for example. The one Nazi one is not really a chance, but it was there. I think clear-cut chances, no, but I just think there were a lot of opportunities maybe for anyone, a 9, for example, a Guillou. I think a Guillou would perhaps have scored today with the amount of chances or balls we put through the box at least. I think the amount of chances we had were mainly those types, but clear-cut chances, as we saw with the goals, there were very few in the second half.
There you go. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't disagree. Unfortunately for you, the chat disagrees with you and Tosin being all right. And the Devon thought Tosin was horrible. Did you see Tosin step overs multiple times? And then once, he literally gave the ball away to let us, to let them run at us. Tosin was okay. Question mark to each their own, I guess. I thought he was awful. Tosin gives James hard work because he doesn't progress, carry the ball like West, Trev, Josh. Well, but he should pass it. And that was my problem with it today. But I'll get into my explanation of what I didn't like about him in a second. What the fuck is this guy talking about? Those was a bit harsh, guys. Calm down.
Maybe I've been watching the 17-18 game the whole time. I saw the one we won 4-0. It was much better.
Maybe you had the wrong game on. Now, just for me to elaborate, obviously what we did in the second half, then you guys know the drill by now. We push up. One of the DMs into being a number 10, essentially. This second half, it was Enzo. First half, it was Andre Santos. Most of the time, Cucurella kind of created a kind of a front 6 like that, as we often do. You can call it a diamond in midfield if you want. You can call it having 3 number 10s, whatever explanations and wordings you want to use for it. But that's obviously was the principal idea. Hato left centre-back, Tosin right centre-back, Reece James right centre-back. My issue was Tosin, the way he stepped off constantly. Hato as well, but to Tosin, there was a couple of occasions, and I saw one extremely funny moment that because of the way the camera angle was at the stadium, which we touched about earlier, there was an angle where we messed up something, we messed up something in defensively, and then all of a sudden you could see Maresca, just his head, jumping into what we could see because the camera was just above him where he was stood on the side, and he was just jumping in frustration. What I just didn't like the lack of aggression. What exactly we did so well against Spurs and what we did so well against Liverpool and why we defended so well is because we defended aggressively. And what Fofana did in particular against Spurs, no one did that today. And I think that was the big issue. Now you can say that is Hato's job when he's playing with Tosin because Tosin just isn't that type of player. Fair enough. I can even hear it, but Tosin is the experienced one. And I don't even know how, Tosin, I don't know if it's just the environment because he's around so much younger players that he feels like he's 50 years old. Because I don't know how man went from being 27 to 28 and he looks slower than John Terry at 34. I don't know. He looks so much slower than last season. I don't know what's going on with Tosin. But yeah, he's just too standoffish. And especially in a game like today where the opposition so much focuses on transition and over the top high balls, and their strikers in particular, until they took them off after an hour, they were so aggressive and they were such a nuisance, and they stole the ball so many times from both of our centre-backs. They nicked it so many times, and it's just, honestly, that's why I was surprised that Maresca didn't make centre-back changes. Usually I'm like, stop making centre-back changes every game. But in this game, I felt it needed it because I felt half the reason why we didn't create more was because we didn't really manage to play it out from the back. All we really managed to do was give it to Reece James or to Hato, and they then played it straight to the wingers because we didn't really get through otherwise. There was moments where it was better in the second half with Enzo and João Pedro doing really good jobs, but in the first half in particular, we just couldn't get through their press, and that is why I was so frustrated with Tosin. Plus, then the moments where he gives the ball away and he just stands off and lets the guy do. I'm like, bro, your legs are 7 yards long. Why are you not flying in? You know what I mean? You have such long legs. Go and nick the ball from someone, for the love of God. Do you see what I mean, though, in that? I mean, you can argue that it's just my preference in style of a defender, because I would be frustrated all the same if this were Van Dijk, but I just can't stand when players just stand off. I'm like, bro, we're not going to win anything like that. Look at what Fofana did against Spurs and how fucking useful it was. And how we got to Tosin and our opponent does literally whatever they fucking want on the counter. we didn't stop barely any counterattacks. They almost always ended in them messing it up. Either the cross was bad or the finish was bad. So many times they got to the end, and I felt like you said earlier, it was so end-to-end, it felt like potch ball again. And we even had Caicedo on the pitch for a lot of this. So Caicedo being on the pitch for a lot of this is kind of concerning. So I know they played a lot of balls over the top, but yeah. Then we didn't win the second balls either. Sorry, I'm going on for too long, but be happy to interrupt me when I'm waffling for too long and you have something to say. But
I'll just get cooked by the chat. I think I'll just
say what you want.
On the sideline.
You gotta be true to yourself, bro.
I just think with the Tosin thing, it might not be something. I'm just saying it's not always. I'm not saying he's completely without fault here. I think sometimes him backing off could also just be a structural issue, because even though he's the one backing off, sometimes it could be because if he doesn't, there's no one tracking back, or someone's left their marker free, so he can't push up. I just I don't remember the situations you're talking about. The thing I saw with Tosin
this is
today,
a general issue with Tosin, because for me, I feel like this is an issue I have with Tosin almost every game he's played this season, if I'm being honest. Like,
I think the thing with Tosin, him and Chalobah are kind of the same in my opinion, where I thought they were super good and almost underrated last season. I thought they were really, really, really good. And this season, they've looked the shadow of themselves. I think they both have a mistake in them. Completely agree. I think Tosin's been below par this season. I just don't think this game is a game where I would single him out for criticism. Was he Van Dijk today? No. Was it a vintage Levi Cole performance? No.
Today.
But I think just I'm not going to criticize him to the same level as I am a Jorrel Hato, for example, who was, decisive in what he, the mistakes he made, if that makes sense. Yeah. I just think by no means do I. The thing is, a lot of people have, strong opinions on players. I'm not saying this is you or anyone. A lot of people have very strong opinions on, whether it's Chalobah or someone else. Here,
right? He starts with Tosin is shit. This is way too out of, you're blowing it out of proportion. But I understand the reaction. But where I do agree with him is where he says zero presence for a big guy. This is spot on. My guy's 6'5", and I never seen him win a header. Like, and the only time he wins a header is when he makes a foul. Like, it's I don't know.
There's where I disagree. I thought he was quite good today.
You know what I mean?
For that part.
Sorry?
But that's just where I disagree. I think he was very good aerially today, or at least in the situations that I been watching a different game. I might have been watching a different game.
Today his areas were 2 out of 4. So, like, I'm not even specifically talking about today, but I remember one when he was quite far forward, tried to win a header to, like, I don't know, stop their counterattack, I guess, and he just leaned on the guy, and I'm like, bro, you are nearly a foot taller than this guy. You shouldn't be leaning on the guy and giving fouls away for no reason. But
that was a weak free kick, to be fair.
Yeah, true. But this is why I went back to my point earlier, where an Austrian ref gives fucking fouls for everything. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, we don't need to talk more about Tosin. Everybody has their opinion. We've shared ours, and we move on and talk about other things. The next guy I want to talk about is Liam Delap a little bit, because obviously I don't have you on the channel on a regular basis, Bertram. So we'll be interested to talk about in terms of and then we'll look at the Champions League table as well about how much top 8 really is gone. But Liam Delap was frustrating me. And he was frustrating me not only with getting sent off against Wolves, he was already also fucking awful against Wolves. And that was part of why I was frustrated, because, and I made this joke or analogy multiple times since, that against Wolves, it felt to me like he was out for 2 years, not 2 months, the way he was playing. And it really frustrates me. And the way he played today, like, he made 1 or 2 decent runs. Obviously, once he was offside when he really should have scored. But I did enjoy a couple of his runs and the way he was then in the situation early in the second half when he sets up Enzo. Also, the run where, when Garnacho scored, his initially attempted outside of the boot cross, that was to Delap, who had made a useful run, I suppose. But after that, it just doesn't feel fit to me. Like, it's just really, really unfit. It looks like to me. Like, it doesn't look sharp. It doesn't look quick. And after 10, 15 minutes, he looks like he's, running empty. Did you feel that at all?
I did. I think the thing with Liam Delap, you could always kind of, count on his energy and just his presence, which I think we've seen. Maybe we saw his presence a bit too much against Wolves with his flying elbow, but I thought he was way off pace today. And I think, but that's fair enough. He's been out for 2 months. He's settling into a new club, a new system. It makes sense completely, but it's still frustrating. I think his runs were off today. I think his touch was off. I think he's lacking match sharpness, if I'm honest. And I think maybe he wanted it too much after the Wolves game to, prove that he's still here. I think he should have been he should have been in like the 9 position a bit more. I think he could have scored that way. I think we need to build his match sharpness, of course, in some ways. Maybe that's not, a crunch Champions League away game. We do that. I think a Guillou would have been better today. But I think your point against the Wolves or for the Wolves game where he's been out for 2 years, I think that makes sense. I think he looks like that as well. I think he will come good, but for now, it was a poor performance, and I think he should have done better.
Yeah, he should have done better. It's a weird one, because, like you say, obviously, to an extent, well, he was still out for 2 months, or just over 2 months, and he's still at the new club. But obviously, for him, it's a little different, because he did have the Club World Cup with us. So for him, the whole thing is a little less new. But obviously, he still didn't have a preseason that affected him as much as it did all the other teams. All the other players. And we're clearly suffering from that. And I don't think fans are giving it enough recognition and enough relevance. And I keep saying it every time I stream, every time I record a podcast with Pys. Link is down in the description, by the way. Chelsea Unfiltered. New episode will be out. Probably only on the weekend, to be honest. Actually, well, we did drop points. I'll need to talk to Pys whether we'll do a midweek one. But check it out. Latest episode about the Spurs win is live. But at the same time, I'm like, this is why I was so frustrated, Bertram, with letting Nicholas Jackson go. Because when Liam Delap was signed, I was very firmly of the opinion that for at least this season, or at least half a season, Jackson is going to be the better player to Delap. Because Delap is joining us from a relegated team, from a team that plays completely different style of football, that faces completely different types of opposition in terms of Ipswich never played against the low block. We play against the low block nearly every game. So it's very different. So I always Pys always disagreed with me heavily. He was, Delap, we're signing him, even though it's a cheap release clause. He's the new signing. So of course he'll play ahead of Jackson. I never thought that. Obviously, in the end, how the summer transpired, and then how we then bought João Pedro, and then all of a sudden thought he's a striker. Now realize he's not a striker. Now we don't have any strikers at the club. This is why I'm so frustrated, because Liam Delap, obviously now he's come back from injury, and I can't fully judge him, from one half after 2 months injury. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm just saying, even when he is fit, we don't have enough strikers. So when he's not fit, it's an even bigger calamity. And now that he is fit, but really not in form, or really not, ready and fit in terms of actual match fit, it just makes me all the more frustrated about what the summer was. Like, I can't even lie. And I'm very hopeful about Omega, though. Omega isn't even the best striker at Strasbourg. I forget the other guy's name.
You got the wrong one. Piancelli.
Yeah, exactly. The other guy, the Argentinian striker, is miles clear. Have you seen the guy's headers? I've never seen the ball, any player at Chelsea headed the ball like this since Olivier Giroud. I can't even lie. Maybe since Drogba. I've only seen one goal by the guy. I can't lie. But that was an unbelievable header. So there you go. But yeah, I'm not sure if you meant what I said in terms of I'm so frustrated that we let Jackson go. I'm not sure how you feel about that, Bertram, especially at
he
the
was
moment.
100% talking about the Tosin comments earlier, the comment you just pulled up. 100%. No doubt about it. Yeah, definitely on the Tosin comments. Yeah. No, I think regarding what you said about the Jackson thing, that made zero sense to me from the start. I think having 2 strikers is always, way too little. Also because João Pedro isn't really a striker. He played at the Club World Cup fine, but he isn't really a striker. And I think that's not a new revelation. It's not we signed him and then 1 month in he said, oh, by the way, I can also play offensive midfielder, like the Harry Kane type.
Yeah, literally.
That made zero sense. Jackson would have played so many more games for us than he would have Bayern. He probably have scored more goals as well. The thing that frustrates me is sometimes it seems we're not doing the best for the team right now. If that makes sense, we always play for pretend.
We definitely don't do that.
No, because he would have been much better now. But okay, so we're sending him to Munich for what is it? Then we have a release clause for 50 million, 60 million, maybe.
Yeah, but that's not getting triggered, that's not happening. So we're just getting the 13, 14 million we got for the loan, all well and good. And then next year we're going to have to try to sell him because, well, he's not going to want to come back, is he?
To then what? Purchase another one who's maybe as good, maybe a little worse, maybe a little
but as
better.
good as Jackson was when we signed him, not as good as he was when we let him go. That's the big problem.
Exactly, and he's been here for
is where Jackson was when we got him from Villarreal, which is a good player and talent there, but with 2 years less development than Jackson had in him. That's my annoyance with the whole thing.
I think just having two strikers was stupid. We paid the price for it completely. Gio paid the price for it as well.
Yeah,
but I think just that whole situation was a shambles. That being said, I still think Liam Delap is good. I think as Mazza is a bit wrong with his comment. If I understand correctly, I still think he is a good player. I think holding Ipswich against him is wrong. I think he put up some very impressive numbers last season. I think we were all very impressed for what we saw up until that Fulham game. I just think we need to give him the time to get back into form, if I'm honest. Yeah. There is a good player there, but he needs to get back into form.
Yeah, but I'm not even sure if Mazza was necessarily saying that we're fully judging him by what he did at Ipswich. But what I think is we need to remember how different of a situation you're in being at Ipswich than being at Chelsea. And us signing him and making him essentially the first choice striker instantly was never going to be a smart decision because it's going to be quite a dramatic difference in type of situation you're in terms of type of football. Now, I'm surprised at this A8, but hey, I love the confidence. He says, I'm still super confident about beating Barcelona. Honestly, I'll be happy if we don't lose. But, against bigger teams...
They're down to Bruges right now.
You can't rule it out, can you?
They're also behind in Bruges right now. So it's not because it's the best team ever.
Bruges are fucking brilliant, though.
Bruges are very good until they play, a Villa or something. No, I do agree with the comment. I was thinking about it before as well. I think this, I can put back to you. I think it is frustrating, the fact that we didn't get the win, because it's always nice to win, and it would have been nice to come from behind to win as well. But realistically, I still think we finish top 8, if I'm honest. That's still my belief. So? I think we have Paphos at home. They won today, fair enough, but I still think we beat them. I still think we beat, or at least get 4 points, if not 6, out of the Italian teams. I think the Barcelona game, you take what you can. I think you almost have to, as you said, be happy with a point. We can get more. It's not like the Bayern away game, but I still think we have at least 7 points from the 3 other games. I'm super confident in that. It might come back to bite me, but...
And that's the problem, because last year you needed 16 points. And we are currently on 7. If we get 7 more, we are not on enough points. Now, obviously, it could work out slightly differently, that maybe 15 or maybe even 14 points could just about be enough. But last year, you needed 16.
Well, so it's not out of the spectrum.
That's why I'm saying, that's why it's almost gone now, because if we win every game, we're fine. But if we drop points more than once from here on out, and by the way, we don't only have 3 more games, we have 4 more games because we have 8 games in total.
Yeah. We have 3 winnable ones in Barcelona.
We have Barca, Napoli away, Atalanta away, and Paphos at home. So Paphos, if we don't get 3 points there, we need to stop anyway. But honestly, we said the same about Qarabag today. Let's be honest. So those 3 points. So then would put us on 10. We cannot drop points more than once anymore. And out of Atalanta, Napoli, and Barca, is that realistic? I don't know. I
still think we can go to Italy and get 6 points. But we'd have to. It would have to be one of those games where sometimes when this team really, really wants to, they can. I think if they're told you go through, if you beat, I think the last one is Atalanta. If you win today, you go through. I think they're capable of doing that. Weirdly.
Say that last bit again. I couldn't hear.
I think if it's weird following this team because you can never really count on us. But I think if you tell them, or if they know, if we go to, I think the last one is Atalanta away. If you go to Bergamo and get 3 points, you're through. I still think they're capable.
I think Napoli away must be the last one because Atalanta is in December. But anyway.
Okay, then Napoli, that even works out better for us. I think if you say, okay, you go play this team, Antonio Conte is still there. Who knows? He might have had a fight with everyone at that point. You never know.
But he
They
might
played
also
really
park
bad
the
yesterday.
bus.
He might park the bus, but I don't think that's really Napoli-esque. At least not the last couple of years. But they have Højlund in attack, so who knows? But I will still remain confident. I think the Paphos game will be important, but Barca next game, I think that would be it'll be a good game at least. I wouldn't write us off.
No, I wouldn't write us off. I also wouldn't write us off beating Barca, but I'm not confident that we're going to win both games in Italy. With the way our consistency is at the moment, I think expecting 3 wins out of these last 4 games is high expectations because the first 4 games were certainly ever so slightly easier. Well, we obviously had Bayern, but then you would have expected us to beat Qarabag. And that's the frustrating thing again. We didn't like overdo it with rotation. It's not like we turned up. I know obviously Tyreek George started, but it's not like we turned up with like Reggie Walsh in the team and, like Jurgensen at the back and Hato at left back, no Cucurella and, Buonanotte started. We didn't turn up with a team like that. And that's why it's like, if we at least rested everybody and then dropped points, and all right, shit happens. It's annoying, but shit happens. At least we got some rest in. But we took everyone to Azerbaijan except Pedro Neto because he has a slight issue in his calf. Every single first team player otherwise traveled for a 5.5, 6 hour flight. And now we didn't even get 3 points from it. That's why I was so fucking frustrated at it. I can't even lie. But
hope they got some sightseeing in. Saw the beautiful sights of Baku before they left home tonight.
Yeah, it's interesting, by the way, in terms of tweets. Obviously, as usual, you might not know this, but he is a generational Enzo Fernandez hater. To be fair, last stream it was actually had a few words of praise for him, but he says, "I have arrived. Now we can begin. Enzo needs to lose weight, bro." I'm not sure it's about the weight. I can't even lie. Right? He slows us down. See, I disagree. And someone said earlier, Enzo Fernandez is like the Jonathan Mikhailov nowadays. I think the reason why we played so much better in the second half than we did in the first half is because Enzo Fernandez came on. And I know he didn't score a couple of the chances that he had, but his movement and his positioning is why the second half was different to the first half. Now, obviously, Qarabag were 2-1 up as well. That played a role, I'm sure. But, I think Enzo Fernandez, yes, he has a few deficiencies physically. And sometimes, sometimes I'm like, you're too good of a passer to make the passing mistakes that you sometimes do make. But Enzo Fernandez is insanely crucial to us. There was a clip going around just today. I saw it that really nicely explained why Enzo Fernandez is so important to us, but he is extremely important to us. And you just watch the first half again and tell me we don't need Enzo Fernandez. Like, watch it and tell me we don't need Enzo Fernandez, That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Where do you stand on players like Enzo Fernandez in our team, bro? Like I say, I don't talk to you on a super regular basis. And I know you're obviously ever the optimist and you try to defend all our players, but where do you stand on him? Because for me, it's like, you're super important to our team, but you don't play like £105 million player. I can't lie. But I still think he's very important and I like him,
I agree. I think this is one of those situations where you have a really good player who is important to our team. And, I think we are much better with him in our team. But it's hard to justify because he is a very good player. Is he worth 5 mil? Probably not.
No.
But is he very good for us?
Well, Moises Caicedo is.
Caicedo, definitely. Reece James sometimes is. I think Caicedo is probably one of the only players, alongside maybe like a Declan Rice or Jude Bellingham who's been worth that price tag. But I think the Enzo Fernandez hate is so undeserved and uncalled for. I think he makes us better. He is, as we like to say, proper Chels whenever we watch him play. Always one of the first ones, toward the fans when we score and stuff like that. So I think the hate is uncalled for. I think people are looking for a scapegoat or, maybe don't like his aesthetic, but I think take him out of this team as you did in the first half and we lack so much control.
Yep. We lack control, we lack understanding, we lack adaptation to situations, and we lack winning mentality. We seriously do. For me, he brings it more than anybody else in our team, actually, winning mentality. Maybe with Cucurella, but Cucurella is a different type of character. And I'm not trying to sly at Reece here, but Reece is just so nonchalant so often that isn't, to me, giving off winning mentality to your teammates. And I think Enzo and Cucurella do that more in that sense. But yeah, obviously, like you say, who is worth money? Like I said, honestly, I don't even think Cole Palmer is worth it. Like I said, always, like Cole Palmer might be a better player in overall and whatever else, but you will not find a player, and I would argue in the world, that plays so well as consistently as Moise Caicedo does. You know, I'm genuinely, like, obviously I don't watch every team every week, but I don't think there's another player that's that good every week. To be fair, probably most Bayern players right now, because they've won 16 out of 16 games this season. Absolutely mental, by the way, what Vincent Kompany is doing there. But there you go. I think, Bertram, it's about time we wrap it up, to be honest. It's very frustrating that we drop points, obviously. Top 8 is not fully gone, but it's certainly a lot more up in the air now than it was before.
A lot harder.
Now, the scenario was similar, but if we, won today, we could have dropped points twice and still been in a very good position. Now we need luck if we drop points twice. So, it's certainly not helped. It's certainly not helped. Obviously, Wolves on the weekend before another international break. So the only one teeny tiny positive I'm seeing here, because obviously I want to do win the Champions League, and I'm like, I want to get at least to the quarterfinals. But we already did our shit game this week in midweek, so maybe we'll win on the weekend this time. You know what I mean? So at least we could.
The Wolves' low block at home is going to be different.
So sorry, say again.
The Wolves' low block on the weekend is going to be different. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. Have they decided on who their new manager is by now?
I don't think I recently saw Garnacho has pulled himself from contention. He didn't believe he was the right person to go in, but realistically, we should still win with the team they have put out. They only scored 3 against us last time, so hopefully we keep them down.
So how much do you back at to score 4 again? Because I fucking don't. I tell you that much. So
first half Chelsea, yeah.
Figure it out, Chelsea. We drew with quick bags to Rasklad. Honestly, just call them carrier bag. What do you mean quack bags? What is a quack bag? Maybe it's some slang that I'm not aware of. But just call them carrier bag, like the joke we had already for 6 years. Do you know what I mean? There's no need to make up a new joke. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, one more time, I'll tell you, check out mine and Pice's podcast at Chelsea Unfiltered. Link is down in the description to Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's going to be on here probably. Well, Bertram said he read that he took himself out of contention or out of the conversation. So let's see. Supposedly they're talking to Erik Ten Hag. So that would be fun. But even when Erik Ten Hag was Man United manager, we still didn't win at Old Trafford. So what does that mean, really? But yeah, like I say, check out the Chelsea Unfiltered podcast. Subscribe if you haven't already. That'd be massively appreciated. Hit the like button on your way out. That would be fantastic as well. Bertram, thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate it, especially on one of these downers. Honestly, when you texted me on the weekend like Qarabag would be fine, I thought this was a guaranteed win. A guaranteed nice chat with Bertram after a game. Well, that didn't quite go to plan. I knew it was going to be a difficult game. But honestly, even when we were 2-1 down at halftime, I thought, we're still going to win. But then we scored that too quite soon, and I was so sure we're still winning. But we just fucking didn't.
Next, I'll come on after Barcelona. We'll do that. It's going to be fantastic. Exhilarating 2-1 win or something.
Very good. Let's do that. If we win against Barcelona, you have to come on. If we lose, it's your choice.
Makes fair. Deal on.
Very good. Very good. So, if you make plans, be ready to get your phone out and start streaming wherever you are. But there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you very, very much for tuning in. Like I said already, subscribe if you haven't done that yet. That would be massively appreciated. Thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards. And we will see you next time.